Congo River.
Congo.
Congo River disaster. At least 60 dead and hundreds missing after overloaded boat sinks.
Whaling.
Whaling vessel was carrying 700 passengers at night from Cape when it sank, minister says. At least 60 people have died and hundreds more are missing after an overloaded whaling boat sank on the Congo River at night. The Democratic Republic of Congo Humanitarian Affairs Minister has said. Minister Steve M. said more than 7 people had been aboard the vessel, but that only 300 survivors had been found so far as the site of the disaster in An province in the west of the country. The vessel was sailing through the night on Sunday from K to M when it ran into trouble near the village of Longora in the province of Mn. The minister told AJ the main cause of the sinking was too many passengers and cargo on the vessel. On the vessel, adding that light navigation also played a role. And offered condolences to the families affected and called for sanctions against those in the transport sector found to be involved. Deadly boat accidents are common in Congo, which has 3 tidal roads across its vast forested interior and where vessels are frequently loaded well beyond their capacity. For most people in the Congo River and its tributaries, Tributaries are the only means of traveling long distance.
Nervousness.
Growing nervousness in Germany about B117, the variant of coronavirus first discovered in Britain, has led to 4 blocks of flats being placed under police surveillance in the western city of Ham. A man who was tested positive with coronavirus was found to be infected with the more infectious variant, which has now spread across all 16 German states. A week ago, the B117 variant was said to be responsible for around 6% of coronavirus infections in Germany, According to the government's disease control agency, the RKR Institute, a figure which was expected to rise. The 145 inhabitants of the blocks of flats are undergoing tests, having been placed under immediate quarantine on Monday night. Authorities said it was the first known case of the mutation in Hom, a city of 180,000 inhabitants. The man was said to be a B citizen who worked on a building site in the city. 5 of his close contacts were also found to be positive, but it was as yet unclear if they also had the B117 variant. 4 mobile testing teams were dispatched to the blocks of flats in the west and north of the city on Monday night. Most of the inhabitants, who must remain in quarantine for 14 days, are believed to be Bulgarian. Police are to guide the blocks around the clock to ensure none of the inhabitants break the quarantine. The mayor MH told the regional newspaper the WA authorities had no choice but to be on high alert to stop the variant from spreading. The British mutation of the coronavirus is highly infectious, and in order to prevent its spread, these measures were absolutely the order of the day. It happened in the interest of all the citizens of Ham, as well as of those persons directly affected. The British variants, along with the so-called South African and Brazilian variants, are said by epidemiologists to be spreading fast in Germany, though B117 is spreading the fastest. Chancellor AM said last week she believed that these 3 mutations were responsible for 20% of new infections and has argued that uncertainty about their effect on the virus development means current lockdown measures should remain in place. The EU Health Minister has claimed that key vaccine purchases are being hampered by dirty information attacks that had triggered a corruption probe against his ministry, Reuters reports. MS delighted wondering after the anti-corruption agency NABU this month launched a probe into the procurement of China's S vaccines through an intermediary importer. L. U lags behind most European countries in procuring COVID-19 vaccines and has yet to start mass vaccination. The corruption broke depended this week when the government announced new legislation on NABU status, which a leading activist group decided described as for the poem.
Revenge
for the poem, as claimed that a disinformation campaign was intended to disrupt youth vaccination campaign and forces to turn to RSV vaccine. Kay has dismissed the idea of buying S because of enduring anger over Al's annexation of C in 2014 and its support for pro-Russian rebels in Eastern Europe. President LC has fired the heads of his government's COVID-19 task force in what is being seen as his first decisive move during the pandemic. The president fired ahead of the Disaster Management Department and the task force sole chair. The suspended further officials, some for failing to maintain proper records of how such critical funds were used, and order for deferring my directives to submit reports weekly to my office. He said the pandemic called for strong leadership. The suspension will pave the way for a full forensic audit, which the National Audit Office has already begun, and a full and independent investigation, which the Director of Public Prosecutions has requested the Police Service to conduct as a matter of urgency. Every COVID-19 death is tragic and to be mourned, and although it is God who ultimately has power over life and death, the deaths that are preventable are even more heartbreaking. We therefore have a moral and civil duty to do everything we can to ensure that no penny meant for saving lives is stolen or abused or wasted by anybody.